initial. This is the initial.
Hazardous materials.
Lower the audio.
Lit up the sky in northeastern Ohio. The evacuation order.
Just press. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Mind you, so 5,000 people evacuated. They're not really talking about it, Pat. They're saying that a guy let his dog out to get water. 5 minutes later, dog dropped dead. Miles and miles away from look at that. Tell me, what does that look like, Pat? That's like Chernobyl.
By the way, that's from a plane. Look
that's
what it
from
looks
an
like
airplane.
from a plane.
Yeah. So mind you, thousands of fish are dying, and this just goes to show you, bro. This is when you hire just for diversity, because he's the head of transportation, Pat. How many times can this guy drop the ball? The only reason Pete Buttigieg got that job, and I'm being straight up, is because he's a gay man. There's zero, Patrick, zero qualifications. Rob, go on his Wikipedia. What does Pete Buttigieg know about transportation? Mind you, this is the same guy
Drives a car.
That 100%. Same guy during the supply chain crisis. Guess what he did? 2-month maternity leave with his husband.
Paternity leave. Have a little respect.
Whatever it was. For 2 months while we were going with that, for 2 months, he was gone. How many mistakes can happen and keep going? Bro, this is a disaster. You know where he was yesterday? He didn't make one mention of what's happening. This is really, really bad. Guess what he was talking about? Diversity in the workforce. He was saying that there's too many white construction workers. Bro, people, this is a cancerous thing. I saw vehicles that had the front of their bumpers at them. This stuff is like melting pieces of the plastic on the car. He was talking about how racism, he's on the America's racist tour. That's what he's doing. That's what America is worried about, is that. And he's the main guy. Same thing with Kamala. When you just hire because it's either race or their choice, that's what you get. And it's ridiculous.
And by the way, what happened? So this is. Are you following the story or no?
This is the first time I've seen it.
Nobody knows about it.
Yeah, but I want to hear more.
Yeah, so this is Houston. This is Palestine, Ohio. The next day it's South Carolina. If you have that one, this is South Carolina, or this is okay. Let's see this one. Do you have a clip of it, or what is it showing? Is it showing anything or no?
Just that train right there.
Yeah,
you can see it derailed in this
I
news
see it.
article.
I see it. Yeah.
What are the odds, Pat, of 3 separate trains,
Yeah.
all derailing, all dropping toxic, like really, really, really bad chemicals, all in that span?
And by
Can
the way,
explain it?
do you know the county of Palestine, Ohio, is 70% Republicans? They voted 70% Trump in 2020. Just so you know that. I'm being serious with you. Yeah, Palestine, Ohio, is a very big Republican town. Yeah. So and by the way, I'm not going to that. So that could be just a purely coincidence on that taking place. But what are people saying? Is there a common threat amongst the 3? Ohio, South Carolina, and Houston, or no?
No, and from what I did, from the research that I did, some people are saying like maybe it's like a cyber attack where the communication is wrong, that the thing is going on the wrong track and falling off. And then, like I said earlier, Pat, it's like almost like a coincidence when people are like, something about Epstein is coming out. And mind you, did you know this, Pat? What's coming out about the Epstein situation, Rob, is they're going to release all his business partners, all the suspected predators, all his victims, all that is supposed to come out tomorrow. And a lot of people are saying that this is just like the UFO situation, because you know that, Pat. That's a fact. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said, and I quote, 3 objects taken down this weekend are totally different from the Chinese spy balloon. So what is it? You can't tell us what are these F-16 shooting down, if they're even shooting down anything. Some people are saying it's a distraction. All this is a big distraction, so you don't know tomorrow. Tomorrow's a really, really big day. I want to see if it still happens, if the Epstein list is going to come out.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I mean, if the people behind it have so much power that they are able to derail trains and have UFOs flying around the United States, why wouldn't they have the power to not to release those documents or to destroy them?
So based on your research, Vincent.
Well, based on my research,
yes.
No, based on my research, it's going to come out. But if you have people distracted, mind you, people walked in. You were one of them. He was one of them. You guys had no idea that there was something, a controlled substance spewing into on American soil that's going to definitely cause cancer. It's killing animals. It's killing fish. Nobody really knows about it. So the more they have you thinking about UFOs, people know more about the spot. There's UFOs now, people think. Nobody knows about the Epstein thing. Did you guys even know that that's coming out tomorrow? Did you have any idea?
No, absolutely
That's
zero.
So what I'm saying is
yeah.
that's a great, my point is put as much distraction as you can out there, because tomorrow when this comes out, nobody's going to care. Just like when the JFK files are coming out, People are like, okay, we know. Just like the Twitter files, people get it. They're in Congress right now trying to hold these people accountable that were fired from Twitter. But you know what? People's attention span is quick. It'll go away.
Is this information going to be unredacted? Because I'd be quite surprised.
Rob, can you find out if the Epstein? I think it's just a list, Marian. I think it's gonna be a list of everybody that was a victim, everybody that he had business dealings with, everybody that was on this island. The whole list is supposed to come out tomorrow.
But how do we know everybody who should be on the list is on the list?
I mean,
I live in D.C. I don't believe anything that comes out of,
I don't believe.
If I may.
Yes.
I just Googled some information. By the way, I don't think there's any correlation between train derailments and Jeffrey Epstein. But if you want to go down that path, I want you to research it. What I did do research is, I used to take the train to work from Miami to Boca for years. Mm-hmm. Years. Okay. It was a grind. This is part of the reason I have a car. And once a week, someone got hit by a train. Like, I'm an hour late to work today. I thought I'd get there early. No, there's a train issue. It's a train issue. So as I'm hearing more about these train issues, I'm like, well, let me see how common these things are. Do your research beyond this. It says, how many train derailments are in the U.S. each year? It says, while fatalities from train derailments are rare, derailments themselves are actually quite common. Since 1990, the first year that they began tracking train derailments and injuries on a yearly basis up to 2021, there have been 54,000 accidents in which a train derailed. That's an average of 1,700 train derailments per year. So it seems to be freaking common. Now, obviously, I'm going to assume that some of them are minor.
Of course.
Some of them are major.
Of course.
These seem to be major.
Yeah.
But I want you to go deeper on this.
Okay, but here's my thing. Yeah. Google how many times in 1 month, less than a month, 3 trains dropping hundreds of thousands. No, hold on. That's what I'm saying is.
Yeah, no.
That is this is not a stat on Google. This is ridiculous.
We're in agreement that some weird shit has happened.
Oh yeah, and by the way, a derailment that you're talking about could be like it hit another train.
No doubt.
But my thing is this. I can have an opinion, and my opinion is this past month from spy balloon, mind you, NORAD. I don't know what the hell what's going on. They have no idea. This spy balloon they didn't track it till it came over Canada and hit us. But guess what? If it's a Santa Claus tracker, they're like, hey, it's coming over a lot. They know where the Santa Claus tracker is. They don't know where the goddamn Chinese spy balloons are. And I'm shocked that we can even call it a Chinese spy balloon because it's racist to even say that this thing is coming from over. No, I mean it's funny, but it's not funny. I think it's a serious thing. Mind you, the thing is still burning. That 5,000 person city is evacuated, and those people are making videos and they're complaining, bro, because they're making like it's not a big deal. Why isn't the federal government?
So Vinny, tie it all together for me. What's happening?
I'm tying it all together in that when you have the Secretary of Transportation on a tour telling people about how there's lack of diversity, why isn't he talking? The first thing he should be talking about is this problem. This isn't just, okay, they spilled some gas and it's going to disappear. It's burning and these people are getting infected and it's cancerous shit.
I think your point is Pete Buttigieg has some explaining to do.
100%, but they'll never hold him accountable, bro. He has no business being the head of transportation. She has no, why is she even speaking? The White House press secretary, Kamala Harris, they're horrible at their job, but nobody holds them accountable. You're not good at your job. If Pete Buttigieg worked at McDonald's and he did that many mistakes, he would have been gone on the second fry fuck up.
Let me ask a question. So out of all the things, and by the way, Pete Buttigieg is not qualified for this job.
At all.
I mean, you know he's not qualified for this job. That deal was made that Tuesday or whatever the day was when himself, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie, everybody dropped out and they said Joe Biden's going to be the candidate. And that the way that deal was broken, okay, I'll step down if you give me XYZ job. Hey, since you like driving Teslas, you're the transportation guy. Kamala, you're going to be this and you're going to do this and you're going to, I don't even know if he drives a Tesla. He may drive a Prius, for I know. He may drive a Ford Focus. But all I'm saying is he got a job for the hell of it. So let's set aside Pete Buttigieg here. With what he's doing. He's going to be one of their superstars, just so you know. He's 100%. A superstar for the left.
Yeah.
Sometimes when things like this happen, you have to also know, you're distracting the audience, which is the American people, from a real issue that is going on. If we go and we think about the last 30 days or the last 2 weeks, what's really been the biggest story that could hit, that really could, some shit could go down? All right. For example, Nord Stream pipeline.
I'm happy you brought that up.
You look at Nord Stream pipeline, the story that was written by the two-time Pulitzer Prize winner, Hirsch, what's his first name? Seymour Hirsch, who wrote this. And by the way, he's had some stories that have worked against him.
Whatever.
We're not sitting here, we have to give that as well.
Yeah,
He's got a couple stories that he did that actually didn't end up, but he made some claims years ago that was actually right. Mm-hmm. And he's known for being the guy that does great investigative journalism, which is what their job is supposed to be. And the whole story is about what? The fact that U.S. was behind Nord Stream pipeline. Why would Russia do this to themselves when they own 50.1% of it?
Yep.
It's like me owning a business for 50.1% of the business, and I blow it up myself, and I need the money, and I'm in the middle of a war with a country called Ukraine that used to be my land, and I need as much resources as possible to fund this war. And yeah, let me go blow up my own Nord Stream pipeline. No one believes that's possible. We know that lady that came out and texted and says, done,
Finished, yeah.
Yeah, finished. And then we also know when Joe Biden, do you have the clip of what Joe Biden said about the Nord Stream pipeline when he gave the answer, and the lady's like, well, how do you know that? How are you so certain?
Yeah.
Do you remember his answer?
Yeah,
Like, just trust me.
Just trust me.
I know. So no one's touching this. So why is this so important? Why is this so, if you can play this clip.
And Pat, can you give me context? Because you're saying, because what that guy's saying is that Navy SEALs went in there, underwater frogmen, and blew up that pipeline.
Yeah,
that's what he was saying.
So why
if we're going to be honest with each other.
I'll read the article. So
yeah, please.
I'll read the article. So, Pulitzer Prize winning Seymour Hirsch has alleged U.S. Navy divers. If you have the New York Post story, if you don't have it, I'll text it to you right now, Robin. You can pull it up. But I'm going to read it myself while we're going through this. So the story that he hang on.
And when it's Navy divers, they're talking about Navy SEALs.
So U.S. Navy divers laid bombs that destroyed the Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline under the Baltic Sea last September, drawn a denial from Pentagon Wednesday. Hirsch, who scooped journalism top awards from 5 decades ago for exposing the My Lai massacre of Vietnamese civilians by U.S. troops in 1968, cited an unnamed source in reporting on Substack that Americans planted remotely triggered explosive that wrecked three of the four pipelines built to carry natural gas from Russia to Europe. Hirsch, 85, went to claim that the Navy conducted an operation under cover of a NATO maritime exercise called Baltops 22. I don't know if you have the story. Baltops 22. In a short statement, Pentagon spokesman, Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Garen Garn told the Post the United States was not involved in a Nord Stream explosion, reiterating the Defense Department's response to the same question in October. Swedish officials suspected the blasts were the result of gross sabotage, and some Western officials were quick to blame the attacks on Moscow. Do you realize how dumb, if you actually believe for somebody, like say, Elon Musk, he himself brought down Tesla and Twitter because he just kind of felt like it, right? And when he owned 51% of it, if he did, okay, and it blocked its gas supplies to Europe in response to sanctions over last year's invasion to Ukraine. These are deliberate actions, not an accident, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said at the time. The situation is as serious as it gets. Anyways, so these are the claims that he's making, okay? And then Biden gets up and he's asked the question, if he can find this clip, because all of this is coming down to the ICBM that just U.S. accidentally practiced just 3 days ago, launching, and U.S.'s government, Pentagon, is telling everybody to get out of Russia at a time like this. So do you have the clip of what he says? Is this the one? Okay, press.
I found a clip from Tucker's show where I think that's it.
Let's hear it. So this is her and him. Press both of them. Play both of them, yeah. So this is what she says.
At the State Department, the number 2 of the State Department.
Watch
and
this.
Joe Biden threatened to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. Watch.
I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine. again, then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
What does that even mean?
So then the pipe.
Yeah. What do you mean? I promise.
Yeah.
We will be able to do that.
Yeah, you send two frogmen in there, and that's it.
What interest does Russia have to do that, right? Think about the interest of Russia, okay? What interest do they have to do that? So, all right, so I asked the question from you earlier, is this a distraction, these trains? Are these balloons a distractions? Like, hey, look over here. Oh, shit, we're dealing with something really big here. Here's a story for you.
Nothing to see here.
U.S. test launches ICBM into Pacific as part of nuclear deterrence mission, okay? This is U.S. News and World Report, okay? The U.S. Air Force test launched an unarmed intercontinental ballistic missile, the Minuteman III, into the Pacific Ocean, claiming the launch was a routine and aimed at reassuring allies. Of course, it's just a routine. Of course, the timing is a little crazy, but don't worry, people. It's just routine. Yeah. The Air Force Global Strike Command asserted the test was intended to demonstrate that the United States nuclear deterrent is safe, secure, and reliable and effective to deter 21st century threats. The English language Global Times, China's state-run newspaper, has suggested China's developing its nuclear arsenal faster than the U.S., which possesses a Cold War-era stockpile that is aging. And North Korea was also paraded its large-ever collection of nuclear missiles. And Russia has deployed a warship with hypersonic nuclear warheads into intercontinental waters near the U.S. These developments have alarmed European nations, which are hesitant to supply potent weapons to Ukraine. Obviously, you know how you go to like an air show and they're just kind of entertaining you? This is all they're doing, guys. Folks, if you're listening to this, it's just simply a form of entertainment for the American people.
And what a great timing, right, Pat? And mind you, did anybody know that we're testing? Like, because mind you, I worked at a nuclear missile base in Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana, where this Chinese spy balloon was just hovering and not collecting data. It was just flying around.
And then somehow, some way, and then I'll pause you and I'll turn it over to you guys, and I'll, if you can go to this NPR story while all this stuff is going on, again, NPR is not Fox News.
It's not.
This is
CNN.
not Breitbart. This is not CNN. This is NPR. Mm-hmm. NPR is left-leaning, government-funded media. So you have to realize who NPR is, okay? The U.S. is urging Americans to leave Russia immediately due to security risks. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow is urging Americans to leave Russia immediately due to security risks. Amid the war in Ukraine, the U.S. Embassy in Moscow warned the unpredictable consequences of the war in Ukraine and said that the U.S. Russian citizen is particular risk being forcibly conscripted into Russia's armed forces. The embassy also cautioned that Americans in general face potential harassment or wrongful detention by Russian security services. The Kremlin shrugged off calls of Americans to leave the country as not new. Next week will mark 1 year since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022. So, again, maybe these, trains, maybe these, balloons. It's very easy to distract kids with balloons. I got 3 balloons at the top. That's all Brooklyn sees in the house.
She loves them.
The same way you can distract kids with balloons is the same way you distract adults with balloons. That could be the case. Again, I am purely speculating. I don't have an insider person telling me anything. I'm purely speculating.
But Pat, when's the last time this much, besides 9/11 and all the crazy stuff that we went through, when's the last time you heard about 3 trains like this?
Yeah.
UFOs, because that's what the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said, 3 unidentified flying objects, a Chinese spy balloon that's just coming over. They're shooting down these things that they won't give us any explanation of what they are. They're not telling us about this until Americans were recording it and going, yo, what is that? Then they have to explain themselves. But we have the highest defense budget in the world. No, I was in the United States Air Force. I can tell you, nothing is in the air unless we know that it's in the air. But all of a sudden, we're letting them come in. The UFOs are happening. 3 trains are dumping all this stuff. The stuff, it's just so much is going on. I do want to know what people, what do you think? What do you think there's anything that they're trying to distract us in? Or you just think it's just, this is just America and shit happens and it's just happening for
regarding
I'm just saying everything. This is a crazy time, especially and with the Nord Stream pipeline and everything that's happening.
I'll address the Chinese weather balloon stuff right there. I've watched a lot of content on it, and I think the pervasive view is that we have a lot more questions than answers. So I think that there's going to be the Senate judiciary hearings on whatever's going to come up, the accountability. Like, we're going to find out what the hell's going on here. I don't think this is going to lead to any sort of hot war with China. I think we can pump the brakes on that. I think there's no debate that China is our. I don't want to use the word enemy.
Adversary?
Adversary, sure. Okay. So there's certainly an adversary role. But I do want to focus on the Nord Stream 2 because there was two schools of thought. Was it Putin? Why would Putin do this? Putin, with his amazing sense of humor, did make a joke about 6 months ago when winter was starting.
Yeah.
And it was essentially, he was telling a story about a German boy speaking to his father about, why do the Russians hate us? Oh, they don't want us to be warm, winter. It wasn't a very funny joke. Essentially, he was basically saying, why are we so cold here in Germany? Because the world wants the Russians to suffer. And he's like, well, are we Russians? Because we're suffering is essentially what the premise was. So from the Putin state of mind, he's like, if we do this, we're going to make Europe pay. By the way, Europe has wholeheartedly embraced the war in Ukraine. Every single EU nation is wholeheartedly on Team Ukraine. Of course. No debate there. The entire EU. You'll speak about this probably much more eloquently than I. What I would say is this. From a non-political standpoint, if the U.S. is at war with Russia, again, non-politically, wouldn't it kind of make sense to blow up the fucking Nord Stream to limit their ability to pump out oil and drive revenue? Mm-hmm. So whether you like Biden, hate Biden, think he's an old senile man, whether he literally was a gaffe and let one go, if this were conventional warfare and we blew up our enemy's pipeline, we would all secretly be like, hey, good job over here. Great job, America. Yeah. But in this political climate, we're like, what an idiot. Why would he? So I don't necessarily, if we did do it, and we sent, what do you call them, frogmen?
Frogmen, 100%.
Okay, whatever that is. Yeah. Putting their,
they're not frogs. Yeah. They're amphibious.
I would say, all right, well, I guess we're pretty calculated here at the military. But you're from a former USSR, Czechoslovakia.
Well, not exactly from former USSR.
No, why not?
The bloc,
former,
the empire, the Soviet Empire.
Eastern Bloc.
Correct.
Yes, so I'm not wrong here. What's your take on what's going on? By the way, just so we're clear here, do you know the death toll? If you know it, just let the audience guess. Do you know the death toll of the current amount of Russians and Ukrainians that have died in the last year?
Both combined.
Total combined. Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
Take a wild guess.
500,000.
500,000. Do you know how many that is in a year to die? 500,000.
Is that am I right?
No, but just keep in mind in the entire U.S. war in Vietnam, I think we had 50,000 casualties in 6 years, whatever it was. Do you know the number?
I have no. I just ran.
I thought it was.
You wrote how much?
200,000 each. I thought
200,000 each.
The Russians have lost 200,000 soldiers, and Ukrainians almost 100,000.
So I'm kind of close.
According to Norwegian TV on January 22nd, General Erik Kristofferson, obviously we have big fans of Norway here. We trust their research, Kai.
Yeah.
Norway's defense estimates that over 180,000 have been killed in Ukraine and 100,000 Russians have been killed in Ukraine. I think something that we're forgetting about, because we were all in the rah-rah, sis, boom, bah, behind Ukraine. All right, there's a war. This is a year ago. Support Ukraine. What is actually happening is there a staggering amount of deaths and just overall just destruction going on there. There's a full-on war there.
There's a war.
In America, we're like, hey, support Ukraine, donate, tip an extra $1.
I wear a flag on my shirt.
No, people are fucking dying.
Oh, yeah.
You don't think that there's 100,000, 200,000 Russian moms that are crying their eyes out?
What are your thoughts on this, Marian?
Yeah, great point. I didn't know it was that much. That's nuts.
Well, I certainly don't think that the Europeans are acting as though Russia is a serious threat to the peace and stability in Europe. The United States has been heroic in the amount of hardware that the United States has been providing to Ukraine, not to mention budgetary support. But it shows you just how weak the European countries are. They've been relying on the United States for support, for defense, since the establishment of NATO in the 1940s. They constantly refuse to meet their targets in terms of spending on defense, and they've been very cheap when it comes to supporting the Ukrainians. They've been relying on the United States. The Brits have done a fair bit. The French are dragging their feet, Germans even more so. As far as the Spanish and the Portuguese are concerned, I don't even know if they are aware there's a war going on.
Yeah.
So I would love to see the Europeans actually stepping up. And if they feel that Russia is really an existential threat to Europe, that they should do their bit rather than constantly rely on the United States.
Clearly, it's the countries that, Finland, Poland,
Yeah.
that are surrounding
the
Ukraine.
The Poles understand
Yeah.
what Russians can do when they take over your
Of course.
country.
They've seen it.
And the same with the Baltic countries.
Versus the Portuguese and the Spanish, they're just like siesta time.
And Pat, this goes to me like with all this stuff, and I'm not trying to make it political, but I mean we're talking politics with everything that's going wrong here as we're seeing it, the wars that we're getting involved with, China being able to literally from COVID to what they're doing now, do whatever they want and get away with it. Because to me personally, the administration, the president, Biden, weak as hell. I would much rather, me personally, my opinion is my thought, I would much rather go back to 2 years ago when the only thing hurting in this country was people's feelings, not the country itself. I'm being real. 2 years ago, people were like, he said something mean. None of this shit would have been happening during Trump. I put my money where my mouth is. You think a balloon spying would just be flying over and all this shit would be happening with China? It's the same guy that tried to hold China accountable, and just because he was like, oh, this is a China virus. You can't. It's racism. China's doing whatever the hell they want. We owe them all this freaking money. Heroin, I saw a documentary where a homeless guy, very well spoken, and yeah, he was homeless, but whatever. He's like, look what China's doing. He goes, heroin's gone. He goes, fentanyl is the number one thing coming here from China. They're making their money, all right, and they're killing Americans. So it's a win-win situation for China. Who's holding them accountable? All these hearings, all these judicial. I'm watching this shit right now with Twitter. None of those guys are going to get in trouble. None of them are going to go to jail. They're going to investigate Fauci. Fauci's untouchable. He'll never, mark my words, never, none of them will ever see jail. Ever, period. They're going to go in front. Jim Jordan will yell at them. Rand Paul will yell at them. Then what? What's going to happen? No, I'm being real. What happens, Pat?
There's a total lack of accountability in D.C. Nobody ever gets
1,000%. That's it.
We didn't start in this country with an aristocracy, but now we have one in Washington, D.C. It's called the permanent bureaucracy.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how much you suck at your job, you get promoted. You are basically unfireable.
Exactly.
The worst that can happen to you is that you get reassigned to a different department. You are pampered. You earn a lot of money. You barely have to go to work. It's a nice job if you can get it.
I wish I could get in.
I have no desire to get in. Okay.
Pat's not going to be in.
Pat, take us out on maybe a more optimistic note.
I got 1 minute.
Yeah. Something happened.
I have nothing to say. Take us out on a more the future looks bright.
Have
even
babies.
Even Elon Musk said it. We're trying to have babies
in the
Valentine's
last
Day.
100 years.
Go ahead.
We've overcome the Great Depression. We've overcome World War I. 2, a president assassination, an attempt president assassination, an assassination of MLK, assassination of RFK, 9/11. We've overcome a lot of things, is what we've overcome. I think what is awesome about seasons like this is seeing leaders rising up. Leaders don't wake up during times of peace, unfortunately. Leaders typically are identified and step up during times of war, times of crisis, times of uncertainty, times of fear. I believe the man upstairs is looking down right now saying, okay, this is the next challenge that's being faced. Let's see what kind of leaders are going to rise up. And your job and my job is to start off with our family first. Within your household, be the leader. Within the company that you're working at, choose to be a leader amongst your peers. Choose to be a leader amongst your community, your city. Choose to be a leader amongst your church. If you do go to anything, choose to be a leader. If we choose to be leaders, the other day I was having a conversation with Dylan. We're driving a car and I'm letting him watch the video of Dana White where he says, this is the season of savages. And I had him watch it. And he says, if you're a savage, if you're remotely a savage, you're going to kill everybody in this generation. If you're remotely a savage. Him and Cardone having a conversation. It's actually a very good one. And Cardone says, I don't care what people say. In every generation, there's a savage. He says, yes. And then I look at Dylan and I'm saying, hey, what do you think you're a savage? He says, Dad, I'm a savage. I said, Senator, you think you're a savage? He says, I'm a savage as well. I said, you have the Bet David blood. You don't have a choice. You're a savage, okay? And he says, but Dad, goes back to the same conversation he has. But Dad, you keep saying the Bet David last name is a special last name. You're just saying that. That's not true. I said, the only thing that matters is for us to believe it.
100%.
Nothing else matters. It's our job to lead our people. I feel like that about my background. I feel like that about America. I feel like that about Valuetainment. I feel like that about capitalism. I feel like that about insurance. I feel like that about anything you represent. You ought to have that kind of respect, determination, confidence in. So if you choose to lead, things are going to work out. Does it mean we're going to go through some... I think something weird is going on. I think some weird shit's going to happen. But, just like, history repeats itself, leaders are going to rise up. That's what's going to happen at the end of the day. It's a season. We're having a conversation with a couple guys in the cigar lounge. One guy says, what topic should be off limits? You know what I told him? I said, no topic should be off limits to discuss today at a dinner or family setting. It's our approach that needs to improve.
I agree.
You can talk any topic. Let's learn our approach to make it a little bit more comfortable for all of us to have a conversation together.
If you believe the future looks bright, order your Future Looks Bright hat today.